What's up, y'all? Welcome into another episode of SSPN. My name's Jude McClaren alongside Ethan Quintero. Maybe he's over here. Maybe he's over there. I don't know. You see the DeJounte Murray jersey got put up in the background. So we're trying to upgrade the setup a little bit. But finally, we're into our final position group, Ethan. And before we get into anything, I know people want us to jump into it, but thank you guys so much for the support recently. Those last two videos have like 600 plus views or something. I was like, yeah, and then I'm just seeing the subscribers go up. It's like, whoa. So I appreciate you guys so much. But with that being said, Ethan, let's just get into these centers, man. So the only two guys that we've got on contract is Jakob Poeltl and Derek White, Drew Eubanks. And then we've had this happen in episodes in the past. It happened to me. Now it happened to you. And that's just, we forgot about some people who are also on the roster for this video. So take it away, Ethan.
Yeah, let's start with our late season contribution. That's Gorgui Dieng at the center position. He came in late, only played 16 games, didn't start any of them. I don't know if you remember this, Jude. He literally got hurt his first game with the Spurs.
And then I'm pretty sure he played again and got hurt again. So
yeah, it was kind of an up and down thing for him. It was, again, the injury bug bit the Spurs in the backside once again. He was initially brought in to be a guy to kind of space the floor and be another 7-footer that can rebound and help out and potentially be that backup center that we so desperately were looking for. And because of injuries and a couple other reasons, Drew Eubanks kind of took that spot away from him. So he kind of got relegated back to that third string center. Regardless of that, I think Gorgui played, pretty well considering he was kind of thrown into the mix really late in the season. He had a couple games where he was really hot from three, which we desperately needed throughout the season, and just provided another big body that we could put in the paint. And I think he played. He had some minutes trying to stop. Who's that big guy from Memphis? Jonas Valanciunas in the play-in tournament.
Yeah, and they were teammates as well. So,
and honestly, I think he played. I mean, Jonas was killing us that whole game, and Gorgui probably defended him better than both Eubanks and Poeltl. I think both of them were in foul trouble early on. Regardless of that, Gorgui, not much to say. He only played 16 games. I don't think he would be coming back, maybe. Is he under contract? You said no.
Yeah, he is not under contract. With him, it's like maybe you bring him back on a veteran deal. Yeah. At most, it's like he's going to be a third-string guy. He's he would be, once again, a great third string center who can space the floor. And honestly, if you wanted to run a big lineup, you could probably play him at the 4 too, if you really wanted to. He's 6'10". So, he can play both of those spots. It just kind of hurt when he came in, right? He was a late season addition to just add some depth to that, those bigs in the front that we really didn't have. He was on the buyout market. So, there's not really too much you can take away from Gorgui Dieng's season with the Spurs.
Wish him nothing but the best if he decides to leave or if he decides to stay. I don't think he'll stay because of what
if he takes a minimum contract with us to be our third string center, I'm down.
I'm on board. We'll take you.
Yeah.
I think we should move on to our next guy. And this is the other guy that I forgot about when we were initially planned to do this video, and that is LaMarcus Aldridge. He came in as a power forward initially when we brought him in, but he became a center in his old age. And unfortunately, he got bought out, and we didn't really get anything from him. He had a small stint playing career with the Brooklyn Nets before he had that unfortunate heart problem that made him retire early. Sad for LaMarcus. I have nothing but respect for LaMarcus Aldridge. I love him to death. He played tremendous basketball in his career here. He never could lead us to a championship, but that wasn't entirely his fault because we had the whole Kawhi fiasco.
Yeah, maybe he could have. Who knows?
But yeah, we'll never know. But he finished his career, his last season with the Spurs, averaging 14 points on 26 minutes. Not amazing, but not bad either. I think it was definitely evident when he left the Spurs that we had a hole in our team at that big man position.
Which is why Rudy started to play there. Mm-hmm. And then it was just really small ball after that.
And that's why we brought in Gorgui to replace that some size, and it didn't quite match the same productivity. And I think a lot of Spurs fans, including myself, I don't want to speak for you, Jude, we're kind of hard on LaMarcus this last couple years. And, being hard on him is probably, warranted because he didn't play up to his potential. necessarily, and he also oftentimes went missing in late game situations and stuff like that. We can get into that later, but averaging 14 points at his age and being a guy that can go get you a bucket and also just be a presence underneath, you can't put a price tag on that. And it was definitely obvious that we were missing that presence throughout the season once he decided to leave ultimately.
Yeah, I think the phrase "you never know what you have until it's gone" is about the most fitting way to describe this LaMarcus situation. We kind of saw yes, when he first got not necessarily bought out or wasn't with the team, wasn't really playing, around that the turning point for this season, which was after the Charlotte game where we're 18-13 and our two young stars. Or stars, you think, right? The two young guys that we just gave big contracts to just led us to a victory. It was it felt great then. And then as the season goes on, they start to adapt. They start to learn these guys, their play styles, especially Keldon, as we talked about in last episode. You just kind of remembered those 15 points that LaMarcus is just skilled enough to go out and get, or even 20 points some nights. Were definitely missed. And I wonder, if he did play, how many more games the Spurs would have won. Maybe they would have been in an 8 situation, or maybe they're even the 9 seed, who knows? But those 15 points added on to what the Spurs did this year, that would have won them, I feel like, a lot of close games that they lost.
Yeah, and LaMarcus, it's not all great things. He was like a terrible defender, especially
at this point. At this point, he's been a solid defender in the past.
But this new era of everyone needs to be able to switch on to perimeter guys. He would just get cooked. Anyone that had even a little bit of a handle, they could get past LaMarcus Aldridge. And I think LaMarcus suffered from the same things that DeMar kind of suffered from, which was he never quite fit the system that the Spurs.
He tried to fit in. He tried to start shooting at the beginning of this year. And this is one of the reasons why I think we were too hard on LaMarcus, because he did everything he could for us.
Yeah. And when your two best players, I've thought about this for a long time, ever since we got DeMar DeRozan, when your two best players, DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge, score from the same spots on the floor, it is difficult for them to coexist on a winning team, because they're only going to get in each other's way. We see it with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, where they both need to basically get right underneath the basket to be effective, or one of them is going to be less effective. And I think that's what we suffered from. If we had paired LaMarcus with somebody like a Bradley Beal, like someone that can score from the outside and create his own shot from the perimeter more so than DeMar, perhaps we have a better team overall and a better duo. But that's just something that we got stuck with that whole Kawhi trade. But again, nothing but respect for LaMarcus. I hope he makes a comeback. I think that was in a story for a while, was that if his heart problem kind of subdues a little bit, he would try and make a comeback to a team and play again. I hope he can.
That would be awesome. I didn't see that part, so that would be freaking awesome if he could do that, because I was really hoping, I was thinking, obviously there were a lot of injuries this year, but I thought as soon as he signed with the Brooklyn Nets, I was like, you know what, LaMarcus is going to go get himself a chip. He's going to retire. He's going to be happy. And then, of course, that happens. And then even unfortunately for LaMarcus, he could have still got a ring this year, but then Kyrie Irving gets hurt and James Harden gets hurt. Yep. And they still take the Bucks 7, by the way. But
they're half an inch away from winning that game.
Which exactly with a James Harden on one leg. Imagine if they have Kyrie, and then you consider now that the Bucks go on to the NBA Finals. Right now, in a fully healthy NBA, we may be looking at somebody different out of the West too. Who knows? But maybe it is still the Suns. I actually could see that still. But I definitely think that Brooklyn, at full strength, I really think they would have won the championship this year. And I'm sad that LaMarcus will not get a ring because of that.
Me too, Jude. And last point on LaMarcus, what we saw in the bubble when he didn't play, we saw that speed and transition game from the young core and DeMar. I was really excited to see LaMarcus fit into that new system at the center spot. And I think Jakob plays better when he was behind LaMarcus Aldridge. And
he plays better off the bench.
Yes, he does. And it's just sad that they couldn't work it out, and that I'm not saying that he was like a bad sport and he just demanded that he be, bought out.
No, it was a mutual.
Yeah, it's a mutual thing. Yeah. But best of luck to him and his heart problem.
Yes.
Who do you want to move on now? We got two choices.
So I think we already kind of talked about Jakob just a little bit there. So let's roll right into him. He ended up becoming our starting center after LaMarcus's just his injury. He had that little injury for a while, which I think already was kind of the writing was on the wall. And then we hear that, okay, he's out again tonight, but this time it's not because of his ankle or whatever. It's because of, personal, not with the team. And then we hear all the reports from Shams and everybody. So all of us know, okay, well, Jakob Poeltl is our starting center. And I think after that point, I think just with Jakob, and I think you might have mentioned this on another episode of some sort, but it's just like there's only a few little things that he needs to get better at. And then he's just going to be a solid center because he's already good. He can run the floor. He's got the length and he's got the athleticism. I'd like to see if he can maybe put on just a little bit more weight, not too much, because I want him to still be able to run the floor. And I don't want him to be uncomfortable in his body either, because when players try to do that and be something that, their body just really isn't, then, that can lead to injuries and a lot of other issues. So maybe just a little bit more weight, like 10 more pounds, just to add some strength in the post. Cause there were times where he just got, bullied a little bit. He is 7'1" and 245 or whatever, but when you're 245 and 7'1", that makes you pretty slender. And so just, I like that whenever he would have defensive effort and he would make those big blocks or whatever, it was like, okay, this is what you can do all the time. I just need to see it all the time. I need to see that effort all the time with Jakob, because the talent is there. The physical tools are there. I think it's just, he's still a younger player, getting a little bit more skilled in some offensive areas. And then, I guess the free throws are a big thing, right? But I'm not like going to ask Jakob to become a good free throw shooter. I'm just like, I don't, like Shaq was never a good free throw shooter. That doesn't mean that he's not a top 5 player all time or top 10 player all time, wherever you want to put him. And I just think with Jakob, it's just a couple little things that he needs to work on. And I feel like what he needs to work out on, like what his weakness is. And I know I'm like not being super specific and naming what they are right now, but I just think that they're things that come with like playing the game. Like, I think that just with he's just going to get better at positioning. He's going to get, his hands are going to get a little bit better every season. There's going to be a little less turnovers, like an illegal screen, just kind of stuff like that, like little things from Jakob. I feel like we kind of saw that throughout the year. It wasn't the majority of the time, but it would happen every once in a while. And if he can just kind of clean that up, I think that, he's just a positive player for us.
I agree with everything that you said. And I want to preface what I'm about to say with this statement. And that's, I think Jakob Poeltl met expectations this season. I don't think he surpassed them, and I don't think he underperformed. I think a lot of people are really hard on Jakob Poeltl, but 9 points, 8 boards, 2 blocks. That's pretty much where I thought he would be. I didn't expect him to all of a sudden become a Tim Duncan or LaMarcus Aldridge. Like, that's not who he is right now. And his growth is going to be, it's not so much of a steep incline anymore. It's kind of leveled off. And if anything, he's going to get slightly better from this point. And there's just a couple things that if he can improve on, like you said, he's going to be that stereotypical perfect Popovich center that doesn't need to be the star, but just fill his role. His defense is pretty much already there. You said he gets bullied by better centers, and that's true. I think that's just going to happen.
But that's just exactly like everybody's going to get bullied by Joel Embiid,
and Nikola Jokic and apparently Valanciunas, but that's another category. That's another topic.
Hey.
Apparently. But I think that there's 3 things that Jakob Poeltl can improve on for next season. The first of which, and the most important, is just aggression. If he can have the same motor as Drew Eubanks, he has more talent than Eubanks. He's more skilled than Eubanks. If he can just throw it down, play harder, push some people down, if he gets called for charges, so be it. But throw his body into those smaller guys that are defending him and dunk the basketball. If he can just make that mental adjustment, he will be 10 times better next season. The other thing, and you kind of touched on it, is hands. Just the ability to catch the ball. For some reason, he fumbles it a lot on those pick and rolls, but he'll be diving to the basket. and Derek or DeJounte will just get right in his pocket, and he just lets it go and fumbles the ball, and it's so infuriating. And I think if he could just get the ball higher, keep it up by his head, that would eliminate a lot of those needless turnovers.
He needs to get his hands rating up in 2K.
Yeah, apparently so. It's probably like at a 45 right now. He needs to get it to a 70. Get it to a 70, Jakob, and then we're rolling. And the last thing, I mean, he has an underrated post game, I think. So I don't know if he has any more moves that he can just all of a sudden become like an Akeem Olajuwon or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think he needs to fix that push shot. And that is an extremely inconsistent and ugly shot, and it's slow and it's easy to defend. And everyone that watches the Spurs games knows exactly what I'm talking about. Where excuse my dog's barking in the background, where he stands like 10 feet away from the rim and he like puts it one hand like an old school 50s center and just shoves it up in the air. And it's so
and sometimes it goes in, but yeah.
It's like a prayer shot. I think if he just fixes that and makes that a more consistent shot, then, now he's a much better threat as far as scoring the basketball. And he doesn't need to average a lot of points. He's averaging, I think I said 9 points this season. Get that to 11. And I think that's just get it to 11, Jakob. I think that's
literally one more shot a game.
Yeah, just one more shot a game and maybe improve on the efficiency a little bit. And he's there. And as far as his free throw shooting, we all saw how just god awful he was this year. But I think if he just gets a clean slate, next season, start off a little bit better. I think it was really a mental thing. I don't think it was him being a terrible shooter. I think he just, after missing so many in a row, and then all of a sudden everyone knows, oh, he's horrible. Let's scream, scream stuff at him.
Or we're gonna hack a Jakob.
Yeah, that just got to his head. So I think starting on a clean slate next year will fix a lot of that. Those issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that with Jakob, I'm trying to think of the right way to put this, because I remembered there was something that you said, and of course now it's escaping me considering that we're recording. But anyways, yeah, just get better at the little things. I like the aggressiveness point that you made. Oh, here's what I was going to say. I think that at best, what I envision Jakob in my brain for the Spurs is a Rudy Gobert type of player, not Rudy Gobert, not all-star defensive player of the year every year. That'd be awesome if he could do that. Who knows? I don't know. But I think that if he could just kind of that type of player, that's kind of the archetype that the Spurs can build Jakob, or build around Jakob like that. I don't want to say this in a disrespectful way, but like he can be a discount Rudy Gobert.
I know exactly what you're saying.
I feel like that's disrespectful to Jakob, but that's just the best way that I can describe it. Like you're gonna get what we need to do done. Just a little bit of the cheaper version.
Yeah, Rudy's much more athletic and much more aggressive. Otherwise, Jakob and he have the same, like you said, archetype. Yeah. Like they're the same kind of player.
So, and that's why I think he was so much more effective off the bench. Like not only was he a part of that bench mob in Toronto, so he kind of knows how to bring the energy, and you're playing against lesser players, but I don't know. Maybe, and that could be a question that we'll have to get into at some point if maybe the Spurs need another center where Jakob can play that backup role. But we'll save that for later. Let's talk about Drew Eubanks, unless you got anything else to say on Jakob.
Yeah, no, let's get into my baby Drew. I love Drew Eubanks.
All right. Do you want to? Well, I'll let you start then.
Everyone that watches this channel and Jude, you guys know how much I love Drew Eubanks because of his energy, because of his just sheer aggressiveness. Like I've said this countless times to friends of mine. If I were 7 feet tall, or 6'9" in Drew's case, he plays exactly how I would play if I was in the NBA. Every time he touches the ball, he's trying to dunk on somebody. He's trying to create havoc. He's setting hard screens. He's trying to block every shot. I don't care if LeBron James is coming full steam down the lane toward him. He's going to go up and try and block it. He's not afraid of being on a poster. And I think he has a lot of raw talent. I don't think let me say this for people in the comment section. He's not going to be a starting caliber, all-star level center. I think that's way too far-fetched. Can he be a spark plug? Like, I think he's proved that he can be a spark plug off the bench. He has an underrated post game. We saw glimpses of that, especially in the G League. If y'all go back and watch his G League highlights from when he was a rookie and sophomore before he actually started getting minutes with the Spurs, He is a capable scorer down low. He's got sky hooks. He's got everything down low. And as far as defending, he's a good shot blocker. I think he's a little bit better, honestly, than Jakob as far as switching on to smaller players because he's such a raw athlete. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He can be exposed just as much, if not more, than Jakob Poeltl once he gets switched onto a smaller guard. I think that there will definitely be better options at the center position come free agency or perhaps the draft to replace Drew Eubanks or take away minutes from Drew Eubanks. But he absolutely, as far as this season is concerned, surpassed expectations. Nobody thought that he would play like a lick of minutes. And he played about 14 minutes a game, started 3, and he averaged 5.5 points and 3 rebounds. That's pretty solid from somebody that went undrafted out of Oregon State, didn't start playing basketball until I think his late in his high school career. He was a baseball player, So overall, I was very happy with what Drew Eubanks brought to the team, especially when we lost LaMarcus Aldridge. And I hope he continues to improve. But like I said, if the Spurs go out and get somebody to replace him or take minutes away from him, I will totally understand. He is not going to be an all-star. He is just a spark plug off the bench, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, see, this is when you're talking about this, Ethan, it almost hurts my heart and my soul because you love your Drew Eubanks, but even you're like, but you're just,
I got to stay honest with myself.
Yes, you're seeing the writing on the wall. Okay, the good news is Drew Eubanks is on the roster next year regardless because we have a team option on him and it's like 1.7 million or something. So we're keeping him regardless. Yes. And that should be a positive thing. Even if he does get replaced down the road, that should be a positive thing. The only notch that I have on Drew, it has nothing to do with effort. It really doesn't even have anything to do with anything mental. Like, yeah, sometimes there are some mental lapses by him. They're very rare, honestly, yet less than Jakob for the most part. And like you just said, the aggression, the explosiveness, the, willingness to dunk on somebody. That's huge for Drew. So here is actually what I want to see from Drew Eubanks, because we saw it a couple times this year. We saw him hit corner threes. Okay. He's got a pretty nice shot. So here's my idea for Drew Eubanks. And I think the Spurs are already on this. Drew Eubanks can run the floor. And you mentioned, yes, his perimeter defense, it's not going to, really stand up that well against elite guards. But at the same time, I do think that he has a much better, perimeter, just defensive stance than a Jakob Poeltl. He's got a much better chance out there than him. I would like to see if Drew Eubanks can just get in the gym with Chip England, literally all summer shooting threes, and he can become just a decent three-point shooter. Okay, we can play him at the 4. We really can, because he can run the floor. He has a post game, but we know he already can shoot mid-ranges decently, right? So if he can just become, I know that's a big task, right? But he has some potential with what we've seen, the little that we've seen. And if he can just, I know this is going to be a 2 to 3 year process, but I don't know. If Drew Eubanks can get a decent 3-point shot on him, he's somebody that we could also play at the 4. And with the Luka problem, which we've mentioned, if Luka just ends up being, it just doesn't end up working out next season, Eubanks would be a great other option to play at the 4 position, because he can guard 4s and he's not going to really have a height disadvantage in that situation unless you're playing like the Mavericks or something and it's Kristaps. But in most situations at 6'9", he's going to be fine. He's going to be able to play defense on the perimeter against him. He's going to be able to play defense in the post against 4s. He's going to be able to post up against 4s. He's going to be able to dunk on 4s, and he'll be able to shoot over 4s if that shot is there. So when I talk about Drew Eubanks, I would like to, and maybe in some small ball lineups, we can still run him at center. I wouldn't be mad if he's still our backup center going into this year, because even if we could upgrade on Eubanks, once again, it's like we're not winning a championship this year. So, so I wouldn't be mad at him being our backup center still. I think that you hit the nail on the coffin. He probably was the player out of anybody on the roster that exceeded the most expectations. You could say maybe Devin Vassell is somebody else, but the thing is, Eubanks ended up consistently playing. So I would argue that he was definitely the biggest come out of nowhere player this year for the Spurs. And he's in the Instagram post. So not only does he have a team option, but he's in the Instagram post. So we should be good.
Reading
with
between
him being on the roster.
Dude,
right.
I like it. And last thing I want to say about Drew Eubanks is on the offensive side of the ball. I think another issue he had last year was kind of knowing where he needed to be. I mean, he had good positioning as far as getting put back dunks and rebounds, which is great. But I got a lot of times I would see him like setting picks in the wrong places, and Rudy having to tell him like, you're in the wrong spot, go on the other side of the floor, move around, get away from me. And I think that'll just come with experience maybe and knowing during an offseason. Go ahead.
If he does get a little bit better on that 3-point shot, then he's going to have more places to be on the floor.
It creates more threats and opens up the offense as far as our bench players
which
go.
Will allow him to probably have a better idea of where he should place himself.
Yes, 100%. And having an offseason where he knows mentally, okay, I'm probably going to play. Maybe I should figure out during the offseason where I'm going to be in the offense. So that'll help him a lot as well.
All righty. Well, I'll just end this off by, I remember like at some point last season, there were clips of Eubanks in practice shooting threes too. So I don't think that this is just a this year thing. Like, I think this is something that they've been working on with him. And I really think that they think he could play the 4. So if that was a possibility for Eubanks, that would be huge for our depth, because I think that he could at a 4 position, if he can develop just some sort of jump shot, he could be a Draymond. Okay. Once again, he's not going to be a Draymond Green, but he could be a Draymond-like player for us off the bench.
So, fingers crossed. I mean, I would love that. If that was a possibility, I would.
Yes. All right, y'all. Well, thanks so much for watching this episode of SSPN. We're going to be back soon with a podcast episode for you guys this week, just talking about a lot of news that has happened. Will Hardy's on the Celtics. Ime Udoka's on the Celtics, even though he wasn't on the Spurs anyway. The list goes on, but we're going to wrap this one up. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching SSPN. This has been our positional breakdown of the centers. Oh, and before we go, one last thing. We are going to be on a show tomorrow, so you can check it out if you want it to go live. It's with another Spurs YouTuber. It's the Spurs Film Room with Rob Trejo. So y'all check that out. We'll be on his show tomorrow. He's got a good little following over there. Some of y'all who are subscribed to us may already be subscribed to him. And if you aren't, go check that out. Thank you guys so much for the support. It's been awesome. We're going to keep putting out content. I've been Jude. That's been Ethan, or that way, whichever way it is. And we'll see you guys next time.